He's back.
My
Lando's back.
boy. My boy.
Yeah, solid weekend. We'll strictly get to him in a second, but what are your thoughts on the race?
Um, Good. I don't think it was as disappointing as some folks are saying that it was. This is one of those tracks where we knew the tire deg was going to play a factor, and as a result, we saw a lot of different strategies, and I think that was part of the excitement of this race, more so than the number of overtakes. We did see a pretty special overtake, which we'll get to later, but I enjoyed it. Maybe I'm biased because McLaren was looking quick. Glad to see Lando back on top, and kind of an unfortunate end for Oscar, but he was looking strong.
I don't even think it was a bias. I think it was a good race. I think, yeah, you get some people whining there's not a lot of overtakes, this and that, but the fighting and overtakes we saw were solid, and then it really came down to strategy. You
Not a
didn't.
single "this is Monaco without the walls" commentator take that I heard. I don't
I
think I
didn't.
heard that at all.
I didn't hear it either. Actually, I heard them. I think pre-race maybe there's one. I can't. There might have been one pre-race,
Yeah, I think
but
Julian Palmer said something. Yeah,
I think he said one. But it was a race that kept you guessing as to who was gonna win, but it
hmm
wasn't like it wasn't a snoozer. There's like a couple of slow parts of the race, but it was always like,
it was a slow burn for
okay,
sure.
if Hamilton gets past Max, this opens up for him. Oh wait, he has a time penalty. Okay, now he can't get past Max. Okay, cool. Oh, Kimmy's coming back. Oh, Kimmy's gonna be like P8. Oh wait, Kimmy's back in it. Oh, Leclerc looks kind of good. Oh, Hadjar's holding up the front. Oh, Piastri, had a signs issue. Lando's saying he has pace. It's like
Had
you
a
don't,
signs issue.
you don't know. Like it was exciting in
What's
its own unique way. It was it came down to strategy and then just kind of seeing how things unraveled based on that.
Yeah, well, I think this track is building a reputation for kind of high deg, a great difference between strategy takes, and McLaren drama. Apparently, this is the third year in a row that we've had a dramatic papaya rules dominated story coming out of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Ironically, this is one of the least controversial in the past few years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a little bit to it, but through and through, I think this is Lando's race. Regardless of what happened, I think. I mean, I think he had a couple shots at it, but he didn't go for it. But I think Lando passes Piastri in front of the race, regardless. I
I,
think the Piastri situation might have affected the outcome of the race in general because
mhm.
of the VSC and everything. But I think if you just go McLaren versus McLaren 1 and 2, Lando ends up in front. He would have got him on the straight at one point. It was happening.
Lando clearly had the dominant pace this weekend, and I agree with you. I think we were robbed of a fight or a potential fight. However, I think that was it came down to how the race dynamic was at play. It came down to strategy, right? And a tire delta and a pit stop delta and one idiotic move from a Spaniard. Uh, but yeah, I think this was Lando's race all weekend. He looked locked in. That upgraded McLaren looks quick. Even Oscar, who's notably been behind Lando for the majority of the season, looked quick, and so that tells you that the car has made an improvement in terms of performance. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
Piastri pit the next lap, Lando was 8 tenths faster than what Piastri was putting up. So, I mean, that's a significant difference. And when Piastri was on fresh tires, Lando was only losing, it was like 3 to 5 tenths a lap, which was pretty significant for how old his tires were.
well, that's where the papaya rules drama kind of came from. Is Lando clearly felt like he was quicker, and he was a little whiny on the radio, which I never love to see when Lando gets whiny. But he was
All
clearly
drivers do
like,
it when they feel
I've got,
stuck behind their teammate.
yeah, he clearly felt like he had the pace. Hey, I'm going to put 10 seconds on him if you put me in front of him, which he wound up backing up once he did get fresh air.
Yeah.
Um, but they didn't allow him to pit. They said that's not going to happen. And so, papaya rules is the car in front gets air quote preferential strategy here. And so when Lewis pit early, he was the first of the leaders to get onto the hard tire there. They decided that they were going to pit Oscar to cover him off. Well, that drops Piastri back into traffic. We saw the contact with Sainz, which we'll get into here in a little bit. And then by the time Lando pitted on pit exit, he came out just barely ahead of Oscar. So that second and change that Oscar lost between the contact with Sainz and whatever he lost fighting through back markers ultimately is what gave Lando track position for the beginning of his second stint. Now, again, I think you and I both agree Lando clearly had the pace, and we feel confident that Lando would have had an opportunity, especially with the tire delta after the pit stop. But he couldn't make it happen in the beginning. It came down to the strategy. Couldn't pass him with the same
It definitely
tires.
robbed us of a McLaren fight. I feel bad for Piastri because he had a good weekend, solid weekend. He got held up in quali, and then he had the Sainz incident. So quite unfortunate. I not taken away from. I think Lando was going to outpace him regardless, but
What do you think
that,
about these papaya rules? Like, we're back to
I
papaya
lost
rules in the
my train of
conversation.
thought. I think Lando was playing the beginning of the race kind of safe by not overstepping it, and I don't. Do we? No, we're gonna talk about Oscar a little bit, but the papaya rules. It feels like
Well,
a bunch of PR BS, to be honest.
that's my take too. I think they get some bad flack, but they do have history, particularly at this track. So 2024, that was the year where, for whatever reason, McLaren decided that they were going to pit Lando first, and that gave him the undercut on Oscar. Came out ahead, and basically spent, I don't know, the entire last stint of the race trying to convince Lando to give up the position, only for him to finally do it at the last lap. And we've talked about this on an episode prior about how that must feel for Oscar for that to be your first race win, kind of tainted by this team drama. So that was the first one. And then last year, 2025, Oscar and Lando are locked in a title fight. Oscar was leading. Lando, I think, has started P7. I forget if he had a bad quali or a grid penalty or something that dropped him back. But he went for an alternate strategy, extended, and then went for the one stop where everyone else went for the two stop. And that gave him track position at the end of the day. And there was a battle. There was a 4 or 5 lap battle to end that race. Oscar looked like he might have had a move on Lando, almost went into the back of him after locking up. Yep. And then, team radio comes on and reminds Oscar, hey, that's not how we go racing. I think they were concerned about taking both cars out at that point. But again, there's just kind of bad PR, bad management, and there's already been this reputation of papaya rules and what's fair for one is fair for both. I think the reality is, just like you said, it's kind of bad press. I think most teams have rules in place like this, but the fact that Zach Brown basically branded this by calling it papaya rules definitely fed into the drama and has made it more of a story than it is. I have to imagine every team has a policy like that. Like the lead driver or your number one driver is going to get tire and pit strategy advantage. Like they got first take. So
yeah, it's a very Zach Brown thing to brand it. I mean, he's a beast at marketing.
He's the
and
king
getting
of marketing.
sponsors, so I
He's
mean,
got to brand it.
yeah. I mean, I don't have an issue with it. It's just been very confusing. I don't know what the rules are. I would love to see what their like defined team regulations are. Red
And that's
Bull's
the
easy.
thing is, I don't know if it even
Max
is that
gets
defined.
priority unless you're somehow faster than him. That's it.
AKA Max gets priority because no one's faster than Max. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's why it's so clean cut. I will say Oscar had a great move, turn 2, to start. I think it wasn't necessarily all Oscar as much as Lando, cold tires a little wide, probably felt a move was coming, so kind of overdid his turn. I mean, it was a great move regardless, but it wasn't anything crazy. Like,
The
La-
commentators kind of sold it. They're like, "Oh, it was a great dummy," and Lando fell for it. And I was like, I don't even think Oscar was necessarily going for a move. He was on the outside of him. It didn't look like he was going to push it to go around the outside. Lando, I don't know if he caught a glimpse of it in his mirrors or he said something after the race about he kind of outbraked himself and wasn't on the right brake bias thing. Like not giving an excuse, but just trying to understand what happened there. It did look like he was late on the brakes or just had too much speed or the car was too heavy or had cold tires or something, and he went deeper than expected. And the way that Oscar took the place back around the inside tells me that it was a reactionary move, that he saw Lando go wide, changed his own line to take the inside when the opportunity was given.
yeah,
So
it was
I
a
don't think it
weird
was an
line.
intentional
It didn't
dummy.
look planned
I
at all.
think it looked like a mistake from Lando, and Oscar capitalized.
Yeah, just wide. He didn't really overcook it, but I think he was, like you said, he was a little late. Yeah, he kept a
Yeah,
nice clean corner. It was just he was super wide.
Lando's always in his head, right? But he had to especially be in his head there. Like, he's got a reputation of botching some starts.
It's like Vegas.
Yeah, he's got some bad starts history. He saw Oscar in his mirror. The adrenaline of this being the first time you see McLaren at the lead pack, and I think all of that came together into what we saw. But yeah, back to Oscar. What a unlucky race, man. Like, you have to think.
Where do we start?
Yeah. Well, admittedly, he said that the pace was not great, right? But he did have track position, and it felt like he was in a position to take advantage of that.
A track like Hungary, track position with a little less pace is fine. I mean, you saw, we'll get to him, but you saw Max fight just like Piastri was through the race.
Yep.
It's possible.
Yep. And so we've talked about his pit stop. He comes out. He's in lap traffic, trying to fight back through the field, trying to close the delta to Lando. And Sainz, who's fighting with, was it Stroll? It was one of the Alonso. I think he was fighting with Alonso. Just ignoring blue flags. That's maybe a controversial take on it. Didn't have him in his sight and just bumps in to the side of him, kind of rear left to front right. He's really lucky that Oscar didn't take damage there. That could have been real bad.
Extremely lucky.
I mean, we saw, what was it, Stroll's suspension completely break during practice, just out of nowhere, and these cars can be a little fragile.
It's just a
to
break for
suspension.
like the smallest things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's where the drama really lies after this weekend is the Sainz incident and this whole ignoring blue flags problem. I thought the commentators had an interesting perspective on this. They noted that the drivers obviously see the blue flags. However, they have conditionally been trained because their engineer will get on the radio to let them know when exactly is the best place to cede position and when that car is actually coming up to the back of them. And so their opinion was Sainz is probably waiting for a take from his engineer on when to give up that position, coinciding with the fact that he's fighting for position with Alonso, and the angle at which Piastri approaches him all kind of make this condition where contact happens. And so Sainz did not take the humble way out of this. He basically said, we got to figure out these blue flags things. Mm-hmm. Sorry. He didn't even really say sorry. And yeah, Oscar was asked after the race, and he was basically like, whatever their excuse was, this is unacceptable. Yeah, he says, it's got to be one of the dumbest things I've seen on a racetrack, which burn, right? There's been some terrible drivers and some bad crashes, but this is rough. One of my favorite things that I saw after that, someone commented, smooth operator is his song, smooth brain operator, which I thought was hilarious.
That's tough. commentators kind of hit with that. The Stewart's note basically took it from a 10-second penalty for causing contact to 5, because they're saying like the angle he's exiting the corner versus Piastri coming up, he couldn't, see him. You have the blue flag, you're fighting, your back markers. How many races have we seen back markers fighting? You get the blue flag, they basically pause. It's like a pause in the fighting. Get the hell out of the way. Let the, it doesn't matter, race leader, whatever. Let the person lapping you come through. Might have cost Piastri first place here. We think Lando would have passed, but who knows? We'll never see it again. It's gone. But I mean, unexcusable for all these guys are high caliber racers. Sainz was at Ferrari. He is a fantastic driver. I don't think he ever should have left Ferrari. My opinion. No excuse. Just, I mean, I think him not apologizing or saying whatever, I think he's just butthurt. He's at Williams and they suck. He thought it was a great opportunity. He's butthurt. He's outspokenly not happy about it, like radio interviews, whatever. So I think he's just kind of like, whatever. I mean, 5-second penalty, 10-second penalty is a back marker. You want to finish 20th or 21st?
And I don't think the teams care, to be honest. Like, yes, they care about constructor points at the Constructors' Championship. There's no points at the line. So finishing P18 or P19 or a minute behind in P20, they don't care. And so I'm sure the intention was not to avoid and ignore a blue flag, but here we are, things happened. I think there's got to be a steeper penalty. And maybe the answer isn't on track, because I do think there's a factor here about teams not warning something, right? Like, the drivers are somewhat reliant on the engineers saying, hey, like, be careful, Piastri is on the lead lap and is coming up on you, watch your mirrors. That communication needs to happen earlier, and Sainz needs to be aware of it. And so I think the engineer and the team needs to wear some of that mistake. And so, I don't know, maybe you introduce a team penalty, a financial penalty for that.
This is where you have fines, and you have penalty points for the drivers. Like, that's an unacceptable occurrence.
No penalty points for this, by the way.
No penalty point given. This is where he should get penalty points. I mean, I feel like people get penalty points for way more stupid interactions, This is a back marker and a lead racer. It's not, you get penalty points for someone causing a collision and it's like 7 and 8. They're fighting for points. Like, sure.
I think this goes back to the whole thing. We talked about this after Spa and Lewis's penalty for his contact with George that saw George DNF. The penalty shouldn't be dictated by the outcome of the action. The action itself is a penalty regardless of what happens or who it was with. And so this should have been at least a 10-second penalty. And I do think that ignoring a blue flag is probably worth more than 10 seconds, particularly when you're dealing with back markers. Those are the people being lapped. And so the team, I think, needs some type of responsibility here to be held accountable. It should be a penalty point as well as 10 seconds and maybe some financial penalty.
Yeah, there's got to be something, or else, it could get crazy. I mean, if back markers are just like, oh, we don't have to worry about blue flags because we're not going to get points anyway. I mean, if you have that mindset, one, this can severely affect the races. 2, it's dangerous, especially with how slow some of the cars are this season. And 3, it's just annoying. We gotta hear everyone bitch about it after. I thought it was a good race. I don't want to hear, a bunch of bitchy interviews afterwards. I mean, it's not. I don't have to listen to them, but it's just like that shouldn't be the highlight. No. Like it was. There's other things that were more exciting in the race.
They were going into the summer break and they had to cook up some drama to fill 3 weeks of a news cycle. So,
thank you. Yeah. Start a silly season.
Yeah. Well, to close the book on McLaren, upgrades seem to be working. Do you think this puts them in the fight for the rest of the season?
I think McLaren is officially here. based on that performance. Piastri still had a great weekend. I mean, we didn't talk about his field gearbox. Other than that, he had a solid
That's par for
weekend.
the course for McLaren this year, man. Just reliability issues.
Everyone's had something. I mean, it's way more in the spotlight with the top four teams. I think they have arrived. We kind of skipped over one of our Lando notes. He could win the championship if he wins every single race. Kimi gets second place in every race. We kind of disagreed on this without completely fact checking before this. I thought it was second place in every race and a fifth place. You said it was second in all. We haven't checked the
I haven't
math
done
on
the
that.
math.
But basically, Lando needs to win every single race, and Kimi needs to get second or worse. And it's possible. It's a very Lando Max-esque, situation. And of course, all the Max memes are coming up that he could win the championship still, which he's out. He's out. Lando's out. But
Yeah, I
who
don't.
knows?
I'm not gonna allow myself to go there. I think they'll be competitive. I think they will be consistently fighting for podiums. I don't think this is their last race win of the season, but I don't think Lando's winning every race from here to the end of the season. I think you can write that off.
I think this makes constructors more fun.
Agreed.
Ideally, when we come back from summer break, Red Bull gets their shiz together, and we have a very exciting constructors fight. I haven't checked the podium from this weekend, but I had brought it up that we've had a different podium every single race weekend, so it shows like what this season's capable of. I mean, we could get if we could get like a Hadjar up on the podium a couple times, like you change it up a little bit. I don't know if he'll get on the podium unless a weird race happens. I just think he's not quite at the caliber.
You need like a Red Bull dominant race where Max has an issue or something for that to happen.
Yeah. I think they're there. I think it's exciting. I think if anything, they get in the mix with Ferrari for constructors and maybe
They've
driving
got
position of the championship.
They've got a steep hill to climb. So they're at 220. Ferrari is at 307. So we're looking at 87 points, which sounds like a lot. It is constructors. So you got two cars fighting. I mean, Ferrari has a bad race with a double DNF. That could be huge points if you've
Or
got
even
both
one,
McLarens on the
if you got
podium.
a McLaren 2-3 or 1-2 and a Ferrari in like
Yeah.
5-6. I mean, they could have a weekend like this, and it's a decent amount of points.
Yeah, well, we talked about it for our Hungarian race. There's something like 10 races to go minimum because Abu Dhabi and Qatar are unclear. Well, now we're back up to 11 because we've got the Malaysian Grand Prix, which we'll talk about here later in the
Bahrain.
episode. But yeah, the Bahrain Grand Prix, which I'm excited about. That was a track before our time, so I'm excited to have something new. 2 new tracks for me this year because obviously we've got Mad Ring coming up. I don't know.
Yeah, I want to do some sim
relatively
racing
soon.
on these to understand what we're getting into here before
We're
I
gonna have to
speak
check
about
them
a
out.
track that I know nothing about at all. But it is exciting. It's very exciting.
Well, should we get to your boy?
Yes. Overtake of the year. Can we just say that?
That was pretty good.
That was awesome. A little bit of a
caught
flashback of them
Lewis.
crashing.
He caught Lewis napping.
He caught him with his pants down. And the best part about that was Lewis was whining on the radio. Max is slow. And I was in my living
And
room
I took that
literally
personally.
saying, yeah, I was literally in my living room. I'm like, do something about it. And I looked at my wife and I was like, Ferrari needs to pit Lewis if they want to get by Max. Because Max is not going to get a freebie. Played some solid defense. Every time they get to the straight, hit the boost button. Bye. Get to the corner again. Cover the inside. It was like just a freaking rinse and repeat. Didn't like the car. I got scared for a little bit that he was going to lose to both Ferraris when he was saying that the damping failed. I don't know if you heard that on the radio, and every turn just felt so wide. He just like didn't have anything, and I don't know if they fixed some settings or whatnot. He got a little sharper. I think he had a good race. I think some circumstances helped him. That dive bomb was definitely the defining moment of his race. Like P2 is not happening if he doesn't.
That was a critical move for him.
Yeah, and he said in the cooldown room that was my one opportunity, and I fully believe it because I don't think he had a standout car. I think it was just a Max race. Like he gave everything he could have. I think it was just solid. I think Hadjar did him a little bit of a solid. I was a little disappointed when
Not for
Lewis.
very long,
No,
but
I
yeah, he
was gonna
held up
say.
Lewis for a
So
corner or two.
Lewis did the turn 5 overtake on I think it was Lawson, and then Hadjar's in the same position, and then he overtook Hadjar. I'm like, son of a. I'm like, you couldn't hold him for one lap. It's like reminiscent of Abu Dhabi with Sonoda supposed to hold off Lando, and he's like, "Oh, I got it," and then they go down one straight, and Lando's by him. I'm like,
What was that effort, man?
the second seat of Red Bull failing. Hadjar did him a solid. Oh, and Max, of course, has a great overtake. GP compliments him, and then Max whines about Lewis moving under braking. I think he was totally fine. It was very slight, totally fair, just racing.
I just love the Max GP dynamic of like one of the sickest overtakes that we've had this year, potentially in really recent times. GP's like unsurprised by it. And so like calm and level headed.
That was
like,
quite
well,
special.
that was, yeah. Yeah, like so nonchalant. And then Max immediately, I don't want to complain, but Lewis was moving into braking.
That's the thing that I think people don't understand about a lot of these guys, but Max specifically. You're racing, and his brain is always focused on something like outside. Like that's very in the moment. Like, oh, that was he. A lot of racers be like, oh, that was a sick overtake. I can't believe I made that work. He's like, he was moving under braking, but we'll just continue on down the road here. But he's like looking at the screens. I actually watched this onboard the other day where he told GP, or it might have been before GP, oh, both Ferraris pit, and it was based off the background of the headset of GP that he heard the guns twice. And I was like, that's freaking
wild.
Nuts. Absolutely nuts. But it was a Max race with a little bit of luck and good strategy. The only other point I have is when they put him on the softs for the third stint, I was like, there's no way he is going. It was like 20 laps or something, maybe a little bit more on the softs. When they put him on the softs, I'm like, dude, no one did more than like 15 laps on the softs. And they're like, oh yeah, there's data supporting it. I'm like, no, y'all's data is, oh, Max can make it happen. It's fine.
They got bailed out by the VSC a little bit. I am a little disappointed. GP alluded to the fact that Max was going to get to have some fun at the end of the race, which tells me they had something in the bag planned for strategy. Didn't get to see it ultimately because of Oscar's failure in the VSC.
Everyone I had a feeling they were either going to try a 3-stop or they just did the timing on Kimi, like Oscar, Lewis. I mean, like I said, you couldn't really tell. With like 15 laps to go, you knew Lando was going to win. Like that was locked in. But when you sat there and like looked at all the deltas and who had pit, who hadn't, who stayed out for the VSC, you were kind of like, this is going to get really smushed here. And then you had the Lando, or the Oscar failure, and it kind of changed the whole dynamic of the end of the race. But no, it was a very Max race. I enjoyed it. And great defense on Lewis. The Lewis-Max dynamic the last 2 races has been a blast.
It's always fun to see those guys go back
11 world championships just going around corner after corner is a good time.
So am I hearing you right that this was a Max finish, not a Red Bull finish? I mean, we saw Hadjar. He finished, what, P6? So he was something like 30, 40 seconds off the rest of the leaders there.
Yeah, no. I think as of the McLaren updates and the Red Bull issues, I think they're the 4th best team. I think McLaren's taken the jump. I think Red Bull, we'll see them do that. I think the wing kind of probably set them back a little bit. It seems like they got it fixed, which is great. Max didn't go flying into a barricade, so that's a good sign.
Well, he kind of did, but it was a tire issue and a dirty track issue.
Yeah. Yes.
Was that quali or practice?
I don't remember. It was quali, and it was the final round of quali, and I think that was just the tire dirty track, but knowing him, he was, trying to pull a
Oh,
max
he's on the
of
limit.
like, yeah, he's like, oh, I could get a tenth out of this if I stick this corner, and he spun, and of course he's a smart ass in his press conference, but that was just trying to push it too far.
That's why we love Max.
Yeah, his remarks just entertaining. Let's talk about the
Well,
team that was supposed to be the best this weekend, and they weren't.
crumbled, absolutely crumbled. I think we should have reflected back to how this race has gone for Ferrari in previous years. Leclerc qualified on pole last year, and as soon as he got on the hards, tapered off, ultimately finished P4 there and like lost all his pace. He was rapidly losing ground to the cars around him. I thought maybe this new regulation with the new cars was going to mean something different. There was a lot of hype about Ferrari. Obviously, with our predictions, we both had Ferraris on the podium in the front row.
Yeah,
Disappointing.
I don't. Yeah, Ferrari, their car just. I mean, if you go off their car, they should have been good, but this is not a good track for them. Sorry.
They seem to really struggle on the hard tires.
Hard
There seems
tires
to be a consistent
do
thing for
not
them.
work. I don't know if they don't. I mean, maybe they just don't test enough on hard tires. Maybe they just consider softs mediums. I don't know. Ferrari has a very interesting way of going about things, so I don't know. A lot of their stuff doesn't make sense. My biggest note with Ferrari was I don't think I've ever seen Lewis drive so desperate. He looked
Mm.
desperate. Like chasing Max, it was exciting, but like looked fairly desperate. Like I don't know what to do. But then when he chased Kimmy, I desperate's the only word I have for it. Like he was trying to take weird, like he tried to almost like send it into the chicane, which was at turn 6 and 7. No one, that's not, you don't overtake there. It's not possible.
Well, unless you're Max in 2025, he had a bajillion overtakes in that corner last year, which was pretty exciting.
There's a driver tier, and I will stand by Max in his own category.
Fair
No, but
enough.
without going down that rabbit hole, it was weird because Lewis was a very
I
composed
did notice
driver.
that he was on different lines quite often, particularly through the last corner. Like he was hugging the apex a
Oh,
lot
when he
tighter
got
than
on the
some
soft end,
drivers.
he was way in there.
Yeah,
He had some good overtakes on 5, but yeah, it wasn't Lewis that. And I'm not
he
the
looks
biggest Lewis fan.
uncomfortable. He looks uncomfortable. You could tell that he was visibly disappointed in his post race press conferences. Obviously, the penalty is tough luck for him again. There seems to be this rumor narrative out there about how he's being undermined because people don't want to upturn Michael Schumacher's legend in Formula
It's a
One. They
bunch of
don't
crap.
want Lewis to be. Yeah, I agree. I think it's dumb. I think you should be rooting for someone with that type of skill and experience and ability. But I think there's a lot of people that Ferrari's not winning, and so the FIA must be out to get us. Um,
100%. But I mean, it's an open. They're open shut penalties. You block someone in quali on a hot lap, block Piastri, and then speed in the pit lane. They have sensors. Like
yep.
you could sit there and say the sensors are off or whatever, but like there's a sensor at the beginning of when you cross the line and how fast you're supposed to be going. There's a sensor at the
They
end.
haven't changed this,
It
right?
no,
Like,
it
yeah.
is what it is. It's like I think he was like point 0.1 over speed wise. It is what it is. It's a penalty all day long. It's 5 seconds. It's not anyone else's fault that y'all keep racking up penalties. Yes, we talked about Spa. That was BS, but that goes down the Stewart rabbit hole that we could probably do a full episode on talking about why that's dumb. But
Yep.
you can't complain about these two penalties. I mean, one is communication. Even Lewis on the radio was like, was he on a hot lap? Like, obviously, Ferrari fudged that up. And then the 5 seconds, I don't know if he was pushing it too hard, or I know teams set their like calibration with their speed limiter. I mean, I don't know, but that's not the
The
first time
short
he's got
answer
that
is
penalty.
is there's a solution to this, and the fact that like your destiny is in your hands. It's not like someone had you under the microscope. Everyone's on a level playing field. There's a rule. There's a mechanism for testing it. You were the only one to be outside of this. It's not like Monaco where a whole bunch of people were getting pit
Monaco's the
lane
only outlier on
issues.
this.
Yeah, like you gotta look in the mirror.
Yeah, I mean, I think he basically shot himself in the foot this weekend because he would have had. I mean, he probably had a podium.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would have been fighting Max for P3 the way the weekend went. If we take out Oscar failing, I think you're fighting for P3 maybe.
Kimmy might have had something to say about that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kimmy, should we get into Merc?
Yeah, there's not much else to say about Ferrari. Leclerc, it's a mid weekend. It's not great. That's not. I don't think I'll ever bet on Leclerc again on that track.
No, the
Poor
dude
guy.
just the meme, the absolute cinema meme, the absolute depression meme, Leclerc's version of that. It's just a rough go of things. Bad start. No grip on the inside line there. They're off the racing line. He said he followed the procedure for the start, and the grip just wasn't there for what they set the car up for. So he dropped back a few places. Max was able to gain, obviously, the Lewis penalty, and then Kimi, which we'll get into here in a second. So, yeah, not great for Ferrari. I wouldn't say I'm a Ferrari hater. I'm definitely not a Ferrari lover. I'm a Ferrari neutral person.
I like Leclerc more than Ferrari. Put it that way.
I can agree with that. It seems inevitable that Ferrari has these kinds of issues on some level every weekend. There's a foundational issue here. There's a reason why you guys haven't won a championship lately. There seems to be something fundamentally broken with the team, and can't put my finger on it, and I'm not an expert, even though I might pretend to be. Do better.
They've had good years lately, and it does seem like a hey, break it down and build it up type thing. Like, don't completely rebuild the way y'all are going with the car. It's worked out great, but the strategy issues, the leadership, like, there's calls made that just don't make sense. Like, I think one of the things, we're getting back to Ferrari, but like the tire strategy they did in quality and everything, like, why is Leclerc starting on scrubs? That's dumb.
It must have been part of their strategy. They were going to go hard
on
or
freaking mediums, dude. Like, I mean, scrub softs to start a high deg track where you need positioning just doesn't seem like a good idea at all.
The only thing I can think of is that they were optimistic they were going to get a good start, get track position, and then go for a two-stop strategy, and so they wouldn't be on the softs for that long. But that kind of gets nipped at the bud when you have a shit start, and then it was on the back foot the rest of the race.
Shit start, and you have a Max Verstappen in front of you.
Yeah, not a good combination.
Yeah. Sorry, Ferrari. We're going to go to Merc now.
Yeah. Well, I think similar undertone here is kind of mediocre, right? Everything, not a lot really went their way this week. Kimi did look like he had pace, ultimately had a grid drop penalty for a yellow flag infringement after Max spun. Again, I do think that is an open and closed case. They've got the telemetry. It was very clear that there was a yellow flag. You've got Max sideways in the runoff as Kimi's flying through. Pretty simple black and white penalty here. So it's on him.
Pause real quick. Kimi is getting known for pushing everything to the limit.
He's got the killer
Track
instinct.
Limits,
I think that's
yellow flag, drifting in the last corner of the last lap. Like, the dude just he's having fun, but man, it's gonna bite him one of these times. It kind of did this weekend, but
well, it did here, yeah,
for real.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people love Kimi is, not only the way that he carries himself and the fact that he's so young and that he's having success at this level, but the fact that he kind of has that max level killer instinct of like, I'm sending it. Like, I don't give a rip. Like, I'm just gonna go for this. I think that's what makes him so enjoyable and easy to root for, and I think that's also why his ceiling is so high. Kimmy had pace though. George, on the other hand, did not. Looked terrible. Did his usual thing where he started way behind, slowly built back up. Ultimately, qualified P7 on merit, which would have meant my X Factor hit. I called it qualifying P7
We had a
or
little
lower.
argument about this.
We did have a back
I
and
went
forth
soft on
text
you
on
too,
this.
by the way.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the grid drop penalty put Kimmy at P7, so George gets promoted to P6 on the start, and you'll hear about how we settled that disagreement when we get to our prediction
Still might
recap.
fight you when we get there, but
I won't put up too much of a fight, but the George has a terrible start, drops all the way back down to P20.
Anti-stall. This poor guy.
There, I'm
That's
not
perfect. There's no words at the beginning.
Just leave it at that. I don't hate these cars. I've actually grown to love them in some way from an entertainment value standpoint. I agree with the drivers that it's kind of this unnatural driving style that promotes strategy and technique of driving over skill, like pure driver skill. And I think that's why a lot of drivers have beef with it. And I'll try to hold back from getting on a soapbox too much here. But I think from an entertainment value perspective, the FIA have done a good job of hiding us the ugly stuff and kind of quashing a lot of the bad stuff that kind of plagued that China-Japan era where people were really questioning these things. And it's actually resulted in some pretty enjoyable racing. The yo-yoing, even though isn't great for like the purest racing, for entertainment value, it's exciting, right? Like there's overtakes in places we're not used to. It's exciting, those kinds of things. But these starts are a characteristic of these cars. They've had to come up with what was already a complex start procedure to get your tires warmed up, get your engine in the right settings, hold your clutch. Basically, they have a dual clutch pedal setup thing where I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but there's a clutch bite points. You release one and then slowly release the others. And it was difficult, but that's what the drivers have been used to. And there's new elements to that added this year. You got to rev higher. You got to adjust other setting modes, and for whatever reason there's something that plagues drivers at the start for poor launches like this. We've seen it from Red Bull, we saw it from Kimi at the start of the season, we've seen it from Ferraris recently, and now we see it from George, and George has been one of the worst ones. He dropped all the way back to P20, fought his way through, ultimately finishes right back where he started in P7.
So I'd say it's a pretty good race at the end of the day for him. Like, it's a good recovery.
You can't be upset at the recovery, but when you look at the results at the end of the day and you see your teammate who started with a grid penalty one position behind you and you see him on the podium, you have to be disappointed.
100%. 100%. I couldn't help but laugh when it happened because George is just getting kicked on the ground at this point. Poor guy. I feel kind of bad for him. I'm a semi-George hater sometimes. We talked about it. I've kind of grown a little bit of a respect for him once I kind of learned about his path to F1. Pretty cool story about basically just like bugging Toto with emails and whatnot until it happened. It's pretty cool story. I just don't like his bitchy, let me dive into the rule book side of him. Great racer, but yeah, I think that's one of my least favorite things about this reg set so far is the start procedure issues, because I mean it's happened to my favorite driver. Kimi was having issues, but talk about some comebacks at the beginning of the year. George, some of the Ferraris, I mean the McLarens, I don't even, they've had so many issues I don't even know if it was starts or whatnot.
Lost count.
They've had issues. It kind of ruins some of the races though. I mean, kind of like when we talked about multiple times that we couldn't tell who was like the number 3 team because you never have both Red Bulls, you never have both McLarens in the race, which
The
we finally
start
had
issue's
that.
been at fault in some of those
The
cases.
start issue, even getting out onto the grid. I mean, you could. There's so many things. So yeah, it's unfortunate to see that happen to George because it was a fairly exciting race. Who you throw another Mercedes in there? Who the heck knows what was going to happen? Like I think he would have been past Hadjar for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he might have been him and Kimi might have been right in there swinging with the Ferraris and then fighting for. I mean, Kimi ended up in third. It could have been, I don't know, or you might have had two Mercedes DNFing. I mean, who knows what would have happened? I know they. George definitely has a chip on his shoulder right now. So, uh, yeah, I don't know,
What do you
but
think? Is he down and out? Is this the end of his championship contention? He's almost 60 points back at this point.
59 points back. I don't think he's. I wouldn't say down and out, but he's definitely like. We're beyond. Tis just a flesh wound. Like he's hurting. uh,
I'm always a sucker for a good Monty Python reference.
yeah, he's not out of it, but with the consistency of Kimmy, it's hard to say that he's in
I think
it
you
still.
look at momentum here, right? Like at this point last year, I believe this is where Piastri started to show cracks in his armor.
Yes.
Right? Like he had a lead, he was starting to show cracks, and Lando was stepping up. Here you still have Kimi in command of this championship. Yes, not the best race from him, but he recovered, finished on the podium, and we'll get to what I think his position is from the championship wise. But when you look at Russell, the momentum's working against you, my dude. Like you're all over the place. You're still struggling to find your way. Lando already had the car underneath him and just needed opportunities. You need now the opportunities and to still find your way. And so it's, yes, still possible, but the way that things are headed right now and the position that George finds himself in, maybe he gets his head right over the summer break and comes to Zandvoort with a new approach and a new attitude and has somehow found himself again. Right now, I think I'm saying no. I think he's out of it.
I think if, for his sake, I hope he comes back from summer break. It'll be fun for the championship and is strong. I mean, that's kind of what happened with Lando versus Piastri. Who got back from summer break. Piastri was in shambles. Lando was strong. You nailed it. Lando has shown pace all year, but had all kinds of issues. Kimi has proven quite a few times now that like after bad start, grid penalty P7, still wins a race, podium.
He doesn't
There
have
there
the
is no
mental
kink in that armor.
fallout.
Yeah, no, he
Yeah.
just is like, okay, like you said, it's the max mentality. I'm just gonna send it. And every single race, Bono's like, hey, track limits, be careful, be careful. The kid just finds time. I mean, if you saw the track limits they were talking about, it'd be turn 7. That dude's almost skipping the chicane. Like he's taking a straight line. Like we're talking like half an inch.
I mean, he's just locked in. I mean, when they brought him in for his stop, for the last stop, which was unfortunate timing with the VSC, and we're going to get into that here in a second, but he was like, why are we stopping? I can go to the end. I enjoyed this tire.
He was ready.
Don't pit me. He wanted to go to the end because he felt like he could make it happen. Team disagreed with him. They wound up pitting. VSC came out about 8 or 9 laps later, and the rest is history. I don't know. I think
What's crazy about that
it's just
on
a
those
different driver.
old tires, he was. I can't remember which McLaren it was. It was probably Piastri. He was beating Piastri's deltas on freaking. He had like 30 laps on the hards or something like that at that point. And he was beating. It wasn't like a huge margin, but I mean, it was like a tenth and some change, 2/10, less than a tenth. But like on that old of tires, he was outpacing P2 at that point.
Yeah. Well, he was outpacing P2, but he was losing significant time to Lando. And so I've seen people talking about like, oh, well, if he got lucky with the VSC, then he would have been able to bring the fight to Lando. Well, he was ahead of Lando, and then by the next lap, literally one lap around, he was now 1.8 seconds behind Lando. So he's losing almost 2 seconds a lap to Lando at that time, and the team felt like it was time to bring him in, pit him that lap.
It was Lando. We don't even talk about P1 the rest of this pod. Like Lando won the race. He was gonna win the race the way everything went. I don't think there's a version of Lando not winning this race. To be
I agree.
honest, I think. I mean, there are versions. Like if Piastri didn't have crap with signs and like they got the fight, who knows? I think Lando outpaced them, but obviously fights change things, how the way corners go and stuff, different moves. I think if Kimi's up there, it gets exciting, but pace-wise, Lando was running away with it. But he finished like 10 seconds ahead plus, something like that.
15 seconds ahead
Yeah,
of
15
Max.
seconds. Yeah, it was
Kimi,
his race, and he was pulling
was,
too. Max was not catching him.
No. Kimi was 3.7 seconds behind Max. Max did pit under the VSC for fresh tires. Kimi had pit, 8 or 9 laps before the VSC. Wound up actually gaining track position because he had stayed out. He didn't pit under the VSC. It would have been really interesting to see that play out if they gave Kimi his way and then he was able to pit under the VSC where he was going to come out. Did he have the pace to chase Max down? Hard to say.
Probably. I mean, like I said, it was a very Max race with a little bit. Like the VSC was definitely helpful. The pass on Lewis, like they played the strategy right. Max struck when he needed to, played defense where he needed to, but I don't. In a world that Antonelli gets the semi-free pit stop, I think Max might have been looking at P3.
Yeah, I think you and I agree
pretty
there.
fair to say. I mean, because I'm obviously a huge Max fan, but you gotta be realistic with some of the stuff. Kimi's a monster, and on fresh tires, and Max did like I said, it was when they put him on softs. I'm like, oh, the race is over. He's gonna be like P6. It's over. Surprisingly, it wasn't, but yeah, I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Kimi. Well, I was gonna kind of get to my take on Kimi and his current championship outlook here. These are the kind of races where he leaves the door open. Ultimately, I think he's lucky that Ferrari had a bad race. I think if Ferrari brought their game, and I think they had a potential podium, which I think Kimi would have been fighting with them. So when you look at the championship points, really right now he's fighting with George and Lewis. And so if he's finishing ahead of those two drivers, he's doing his job. I think George, at this point in the season, is kind of a given that Kimi's going to beat him unless there's some other kind of circumstances that changes that. I think his fight with this is with Lewis. Lewis obviously shot himself in the foot, 5-second penalty. Well, that's basically their delta at the end of the race. Lewis would have been right there with him. And these weekends where Mercedes doesn't quite seem to have the advantage that they have at other tracks, and then you layer on grid penalties for yellow flag infringements, those kinds of errors, those small things add up to a lot, and it leaves the door open. So I think he gets away with one here due to Ferrari's 100%, poor performance.
100%. I mean, if Lewis doesn't get a grid penalty and doesn't get a 5-second penalty, Kimi would have had to do a lot more to get to that podium. So, I mean, I think you nailed it. The door's still open. I already said I want an exciting fight, so I'm liking Kimi, so I'm rooting for him at this point. But if we come back from summer, George shows some pace. I'm not gonna say Ferrari gets their act together, but Lewis has been pretty strong. So he Lewis. He makes things happen. I just hope it stays exciting. But at this point, it is truly Kimi's to lose.
Mm-hmm. He can do enough. Like I said, I think reality, he just needs to finish ahead of those two drivers for the majority of the races to remain. Lewis, I think he's had some poor luck, but I think he's also been plagued by some issues at Ferrari as of late. and they've got to figure that situation out if he's going to have a shot at the championship. I do hope that they figure it out and that we get an exciting end to the season on the back half after the summer break. I Man, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to go with that. I was going to go with a hot take, but it needs more time in the oven.
Hit me with the hot take. We got all of summer to simmer on it. You could change it. Let's hear it.
Well, I'm rooting for Lewis at this point. Like I don't dislike Kimmy. I think I would be excited by a Kimmy championship, but just in terms of entertainment value, I want Lewis to close the gap and for the season to end close as it did last year to get some drama. What I don't want to happen is for this narrative that I'm seeing popping up about people are out to get Lewis and they're going to hold him back because they want to preserve the Michael Schumacher legacy. I don't want that rumor to grow legs and to be part of the story here. The drama that followed 2021 and kind of the biases around that, I don't want this season to be plagued with those same types of issues, I guess is where I was headed.
No, it'd be great to come back from summer. George has rediscovered himself because once again, I'm not really a George fan, but he's a good racer, and with the car they have and the way season's going, I would love to see him find some podium or at least be fighting up there, not necessarily winning races. But he needs to be in form. Lewis needs to be in form, and whoever else to take advantage of when Kimi does make a mistake. He does make mistakes, whether that's the starting procedure or a random corner or whatever. It's F1, it's margins, but Kimi is in such good form. If someone is not at the top of their game when we get back, and Kimi is still in form, he's going to run away with it. So it'd be great. I mean, we're fully agreed on. I think neither of our drivers really have a shot at all to take it.
Just want it to be entertaining.
So we just want it to be entertaining. And I really I'm enjoying Kimi because he has like this awesome mindset, good personality, fun. Lewis is a legend, so it'd be great to see him without penalties fighting and closing the championship gap. And then I do like the inter-team battles when you have two drivers in form and they're battling. It's really exciting. We had Ferrari in the beginning of the season. We had a little bit of Merc, but of course we had PU failures and crap like that. So I think that second half of the season could be really exciting. And then you throw McLaren into the mix and it gets spicy. And then Red Bull creep around and have a random Max, fantastic race. I'm not banking for anything crazy, but the good thing about Max is he proves to just kind of show up sometimes.
You think Max can win a race this season?
I think Max gets a race this season. That would be my hot take. I think he sneaks one. That. I think if Red Bull, like I said, Red Bull needs to bring something to the table, but I think Max gets a race win. It's hard to imagine him not getting one.
I agree.
He's had some good races. He's been on the podium multiple times. Like, he can do it.
He won the last Malaysian Grand Prix. Just saying.
Ooh. He's about to be on the sim a lot this summer. A lot.
Gotta warm up. I'm looking at the Constructors' Championship standings right now. So Merc is at 379. That is a 72-point lead on Ferrari. And so you mentioned that you're not a big George fan, but you do want him to find form. I actually don't, selfishly, just because I want to see that Constructors fight get spicy. I think if George finds his form, Merc runs away with it, and then basically that leaves Ferrari and McLaren kind of on their own islands. They're not really close enough unless something changed drastically.
I was talking drivers, so if we take the drivers to the side and we're going to constructors, I agree with you.
I want Ferrari Merc Constructors title fight at the end of the season is where I'm headed.
Yes.
Whatever that means for George. Whatever.
Do what you gotta do, George. It's fine.
Yeah.
Biggie. Aston showed up.
We're
back. I think it was pretty big.
Kinda. We got our first Q2 appearance from Alonso. Great news. I wasn't paying attention, or it wasn't really mentioned in the broadcast. Stroll finishes ahead of him.
I
I
honestly,
didn't realize that until I went back and looked
so
at the results.
I talked to Junk in our group text because I took Stroll and Aston on my fantasy team, which I knew was like a massive gamble. But I'm like, this could actually pay off because they're stupid cheap. I didn't hear anything about Stroll the entire race. The only thing I knew is, okay, he didn't make it to Q2. So I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. Alonso did.
Yeah.
And we saw Alonso with the Hamilton blue flag and the fighting signs before impact. Heard nothing about Stroll, and I didn't until we got onto the podcast and I looked at our little side notes and I saw Stroll P13 that you put in there. I'm like, what the frick
There's
happened,
a
dude?
sneaky P13. I was not ready for that when I
I
was
need to
getting
go
prepared
back
here.
and watch the onboard of just Stroll, which is the weirdest thing ever to say, and see where that came from.
I don't know. I'm gonna need watch it on like times 4 and just see. But great news for Aston. So you'll remember that the upgrades that were brought basically was a B spec car, new chassis, which meant weight savings, aero, like the whole shebang. The only thing that wasn't upgraded in this round was the power unit. Well, guess what? They're getting the new power unit this week. In fact, they actually stayed behind in Hungary in order to do a filming day where they are going to fit the new power unit to the new chassis as part of that, as kind of a micro testing session. Could we see them legitimately fight for points here by the time we get to Zandvoort? P13,
Okay.
P14 with the same power unit that they had at the beginning of the season.
Based on this first half of the upgrade package, 100%.
I'm with
And
you.
and Nui is amazing. So yes, they flopped hard, and we talked about it very early in the season, where there wasn't very good communication between Honda and him. Nui wanted the chassis for as long as possible. They didn't really take the time, this is both sides' fault, to marry the two together in testing until way too late. So huge mistake. I I think we're gonna get back from summer and they're gonna be like in the middle, truly. And never
Based
been a
on
Stroll fan, but Stroll just finished P13. Alonso's still a great racer. He might be scoring points every week. It could happen.
it could make the best of the rest fight get real interesting if they are consistently right around that P10 threshold, which I think they will be at this point. These cars, these new 2026 cars, are so dependent on the battery deployment, and we know that the Aston has been plagued by issues, whether it was vibrations and nerve damage or just straight up a lack of power with the Honda power unit. This could be a absolute turning point in their season, and it's going to make that fight between what is right now Racing Bulls and Alpine get quite interesting.
The little
Those
bit of
guys
Audi.
are real close. They're 5 points apart, fighting for P5 in the constructors. I don't know if Aston has enough juice in the tank to bring the fight to them. They only have 1 point on the season thus far, the sole Alonso P10. But they can make it real interesting, and that's gonna be a decision maker for basically the rest of the field here. I think right now they finished above both Hasses, they finished above both Williams, and one of the Alpines in Colapinto, who has looked equal, if not better, than Gasly as of recently. So I think
The
they're in
only
it.
asterisk I have on this is Hungary is a very battery heavy circuit, so you don't really like you get to charge so much.
Heavy meaning it's heavy
Like
charging
like
capabilities. So you don't.
you have battery, so I think we're obviously don't get to see this upgrade package on like a spa, so they're gonna
Yeah,
have the full shebang when we get back, so we'll never know. But I think that
I
might
think
have
we're gonna
done them a
find out real
solid.
quick in Zandvoort.
Oh, 100%. I think that might have done them a solid in Hungary.
Agreed. Agreed.
Big solid. But still, I mean, from being behind Cadillac to P13, P14, that regardless, it worked. Regardless.
They've got to be happy. I think you're right. I think the dependency on the battery is lower here around Hungary, and so yes, that gives them an advantage here. But I also think when you get to the other track, you're going to see it dip the other way, where The power units are becoming more important. However, they're bringing a new power unit. And so maybe it's a net wash. We'll have to wait and see. But I do think we can, moving forward, knock on wood, I think we can see them fighting for Q2s and in that like P13, P14, P11, P12 range. And who knows? It only takes one or two issues and you're in the points.
It would be great to see another team fighting for that like last couple points. Just
Mm-hmm.
right now the races are, which this happens a lot anyway, but it's the top four teams, which turns into, like this last race, you got Lewis and Max for a third of the broadcast, right? Um, and then the midfield and back markers, you might get a little random, side shot of what's going on. If they can throw a wrench in this midfield, we might actually see some broadcast time over there, some fighting. I mean, Alonso's fighting Signs. Signs obviously didn't want to like give it up per se,
Yeah.
whatever that was. But it could make it exciting. I would love to see some
I
more
love
battles.
that you brought it up because that's where I was headed. Was we don't. That's one of my complaints with the broadcasts as of lately is they've been awfully focused on the front four and we don't get really any highlights from the back markers, even though they're fighting for position. Like the Colapinto pass in Spa, which was nutty. We got the little micro version of it over on the timing table. Like we want to
Commentator
see that.
yelling.
Yeah.
No actual visual other than that little tiny box.
Yeah. So I hope you're right. I hope a little bit more action in the midfield means broadcast gets a little bit more heavy for the midfield. Not to say that I don't want to see fighting at the front too. I just want to see those guys get some love. So, well, before we jump to the Malaysian Grand Prix, I want to get to our predictions recap. Look at how poorly we did this week.
Oof.
It was rough.
And cut. And cut.
Producer, aka Zach, cut this.
Find the button.
0 for 4 between the two of us for our front row predictions. I went Lewis Kimmy. You went Kimmy Lewis. Not great. Good penalties for both of us.
Yeah, I don't know, man. We thought
I don't have anything
Lewis
to
has
say.
been on
McLaren
form.
came
We
out of
thought-
nowhere. We weren't
we thought
expecting
Ferrari
that.
were going to be good. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kimmy, yeah, I don't have words for that one. I blame Ferrari.
I might have to start slipping Lando into some of these
I
predictions
did.
after this
I
weekend.
did. Go to the
You
next
did.
one. It's fine. Go to the next one.
You had Lando on your podium predictions. You also had Kimi Lewis, so you're 2 for 3 there. I had Lewis, Kimi, Leclerc. So obviously I was big on Ferrari. I bought into the hype and I paid for it. Only 1 point for me there. I took the win for Guess the Grid. It was P9, so this is where we guess what driver is going to be in that position. P9 for this week. I had Lawson finished P8. Pretty
Not
good.
bad.
Pretty
I
good.
wasn't too far off though.
You had Bortoletto, which I definitely think had the potential of taking that. He finishes P11, so I had you by 1 position. So I'll take it. X Factor. Let's do yours first, because I suspect there's going to be some conversation around mine.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be kind anymore.
Uh,
I was talking to Alex about it a little bit. It helped me get my thoughts out without texting you. I said Lindblad, no points. It was very close because he one stopped, but the problem with the person that went P11, Bortoletto, did a one stop, so it didn't end up being. He didn't end up being overtaken, so it was close. It was close. So not too disappointed. That one was a little bit of a long shot. He's been in form, so not crazy. Teammate crash, DNF, a little bit more bold, but there's potential. Racing Bulls have, I think that's coming. I think it's coming. They've been close nonstop. Like over, there's a clip of Max yelling, "You effing morons," because they're fighting in front of him on a blue flag. Like he's just losing his mind. Ferraris are close. McLaren.
I think I goofed this up. I think Lindblad finished P10, did he not?
He did.
He did. So that's... Oh, you said no points. Okay.
No points.
Never mind.
Yeah,
I don't have
no
my
points.
head on straight.
No, it's not an X factor if I said Lindblad points. That's garbage.
I would have called you on that. You're right. So mine, I had Williams finishes in the bottom 2. I think that was in play until we had some Cadillac DNFs. They did not look great. Given Cadillac didn't look great either. Haas, I don't really remember what happened to Behrman, but he finished behind both Williams. That Williams car is bad. It's bad
It's
right
terrible,
now.
dude.
I mean, finishing in the bottom 2, what I was banking on here is that Aston was going to have a good weekend, so that part of my prediction hit, but just Williams wasn't quite as bad as I thought, but they're still pretty bad. My other X factor was George qualifying P7 or lower. Prior to this, he only had one Q3 appearance ever. He has finished in the points previously with some recovery drives, but only one Q3 appearance. That didn't happen, not because my prediction was wrong, but because of Kimi's yellow flag infringement with a grid penalty, dropped him to P7.
Your prediction was great. I'll
Kimi
give
to
you that.
P6. I felt so good about it, and then when I saw the grid penalty come down on Kimi, we were texting, and I was like, I was adamant. I was like, no way, like that, count it. I made it, count it, and won.
See,
No.
I have decided to be not kind on this because any other situation, it's the same as if we guess front row and then they throw a penalty in late after qualifying. It's like wherever they're starting is, quali front row.
I think you got to go black and white.
If I had a perfect podium and then some investigation comes through and they knock somebody out, it is what it is. So
I'll take it on the chin.
Not
I
to
will
be
take
cruel,
it on the chin.
but that way we have.
I get
black and white
brownie
rules.
points for how close I was, though.
I mean, you nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. It's just Kimmy did you dirty. So what?
Well,
we both walked away with 0 points.
Big fat goose egg. So we
Two
get
positive,
negative
2
points.
negative.
Yeah.
So we did not nail that. My podium was solid though.
It was
2 out of 3 on the podium.
And I think you almost actually went Max, if I recall, and then you talked yourself out of it.
I did.
But I think you put Lando there instead of Max. I think you still would have been 2 for 3. I think you
I
had Lewis
believe.
on
I
there.
don't think I was changing Lewis. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
No, it was Lando or Max because Lewis was like 8 out of 9 podiums, 8 wins or something like that. There's no way. Yeah, no way. So that's a sad
Yeah, I don't love.
sad weekend for us.
We've only done this for 3 weeks now, 3 races, so small sample size, but we are not doing great. And we decided to implement this after we absolutely nailed our predictions for one of the races, and we have absolutely sucked since we started this.
The problem is you came up with X Factor, so we're both gambling. So
We
like,
are.
like I have
You're
4
right. We would
points,
have a
you
lot more
3,
points.
but it'd probably be more like a 7 and 5 or something like that.
You're absolutely right. I play fast and lose with my X Factors. Yeah.
That's painful. Oh well,
Okay.
it makes it fun. It's fine.
Yep.
I'll be happy with my podium and take my X Factors on the chin, which are probably pretty stupid, but it is what it is.
That's the fun. Well, before we sign off, I want to just talk a little bit more about the Malaysian Grand Prix.
Way too
like I
early
said,
Malaysian Grand Prix predictions.
No,
X Factors
definitely
only.
not. Definitely not. This one was cool to me. This, again, like I said, this was before our era of watching F1. And so I actually went back and watched the race highlights from the last Malaysian Grand Prix, which I believe was 2017. That was pre-Halos. That was, I believe it was Max's first full-time season in the Red Bull.
I think,
He
first
wound up
full time. I think he started in 16.
2016 was when he got promoted. brought the fight to the Mercedes and won. They had two Red Bulls on the podium there. That was the Danny Rick era of Red Bull as well. So it's a good one. Supposedly this track is noted as one of the best modern circuits by fans that have been around long enough to witness that. A lot of high speed flowing corners with multiple overtaking spots. Higher deg, so we might see some strategy options like what we saw here in Hungary. And it's obviously in the Southeast Asian islands over there, so we get some tropical weather and some unpredictability. We see that a little bit in Singapore when we go there as well. So it might get a little spicy. It's F1 Grade 1 circuit. It's kept its reputation. MotoGP races there pretty often, if not annually, I think at this point. So the reason that they stopped racing there isn't because the track wasn't good enough or the racing was poor. It actually came down to the economics of everything. It turns out that it really wasn't all that profitable for the Malaysian government, and they decided they were going to stop paying for it. By the way, countries have to pay for their circuits to be put on the F1 calendar. It's all about money. So that's why it lost its place.
Can't blame them.
And that's part of the news here is this obviously comes in and replaces the Bahrain Grand Prix, which has been canceled due to conflict in the Middle East. Well, the king of Bahrain says, I'm going to pay for it, but you still have to call it the Bahrain Grand
Just
Prix.
so stupid, dude.
So
It's Malaysian Grand Prix paid by Bahrain.
They've got a strange marketing branding issue that they need to come up with here. But I am excited for the race and a venue that I haven't personally watched before to see something old return to the calendar. I'm excited.
I'm excited. I, to be 100% honest, haven't checked out the circuit at all. Was waiting for the official confirmation. We got a little bit of a break. We'll get some videos out, but I definitely want to get some sim time on that just to kind of get a feel for it so that we could kind of throw a little bit more at it. I like high speed flowing corners. I like those type of races, so I think this will be very exciting. I like Bahrain. Yeah, it's just cool to get something new out there, and we'll see what it brings. Max won it last, so here we go again. Maybe that'll be the one.
Maybe. Well, I think that's not going to happen until October or November. It's later this fall, so we've got a ways to go before we get there. We're gonna keep it going during summer break here. We'll put out some more videos. Obviously, there's going to be more news and drama. Silly season's going to ramp up here pretty quick once all the Hungary Grand Prix news gets old. We'll have new things to talk about, so be on the lookout for our next video.
We'll see what shows up. We'll, maybe do some updated liveries, or maybe we'll do like an overtake episode or something. We'll throw something at you.
I love shitting on people's liveries.
Yes. Maybe there'll be a blockbuster trade. Probably not, but, maybe Ocon will get dumped during the summer or something. We'll see. It's like the only thing I can think of. But thank you for joining us again.
I dumped for Sonoda.
No. Just stop it. Okay. On that note, we will see you soon.